What do the authors Hilton Hotema, Kenyon Clementi, and Carl Kreidler all have in common? Besides advocating that a diet of fruit and air will make one potentially live for thousands of years, these three men are in actuality some of the pseudonyms used by the American writer George R. Clements. Clements, though little remembered today, was one of the most prominent charlatan and snake oil salesmen of the 20th century. He was a man who mixed questionable health advice, esoteric spirituality, and false histories of civilization. Here are some of his quotes. "The human organism was designed to live on the fruits of the tree. Man's descent into eating flesh and grains brought him death." And another quote. "When man eats as nature intended, he will no longer know disease nor decay." End quote. In a publishing career spanning decades, several of his most popular works continue to influence pseudoscientific trends regarding breatharianism and fruitarianism. These beliefs can have potentially adverse or even deadly outcomes. He was a man who hated modernity and wrote fictional narratives he spun as truth. Ultimately, Clements considered one of life's greatest questions: will eating oranges make you immortal? No, they do not, but they are nonetheless quite delicious. On that small point, he and I can agree. Welcome to Historical Detour. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and consider pledging to my Patreon. The man who would write under so many names was born in Fitchburg, Massachusetts in 1878. Clements claims his ancestors were Britons arriving in Massachusetts shortly after the Mayflower. By the 1880s, the family moved to Illinois, where George would be raised Presbyterian and attended a local Sunday school. Although Clements' religious views would become increasingly heterodox from mainline Protestantism. George claimed that his journey to living a long life began at age 9 while in grade school. He would eat a vegan diet for his long-term health for several years. In 1899, George would enlist in the U.S. Army and serve in the Philippine-American War. He would remain in the Philippines until mid-1901. He even had an account of his time there published in the veteran publication National Tribune. By 1902, he was in the United States. At some point in the following years, he would move to the recently established state of Oklahoma. In 1917 to 1918, during U.S. participation in World War I, George was registered in the military draft. The registration card places his location in the city of Hugo in Choctaw County of Oklahoma. His employer is listed as working in the federal courthouse. Around this time, with his wife Jerusha of South Dakota, he had at least 2 sons. He published one of his earliest books in the year of 1926. That work was entitled The Law of Life and Human Health. Some common themes or subjects appear frequently in his works. He takes at face value claims that certain people achieved 120-plus year lifespans purely through their diets, despite no strong evidence. In one of his few sensible takes in the 1920s, he opposed tobacco smoking before studies showed their carcinogenic effects. Albeit his opposition was due to smoked tobacco supposedly putting unhealthy vapor in the body, rather than the clean air which could supposedly make men live millennia. George was strongly opposed to any form of inoculation or vaccination, as these medical practices became commonplace, viewing them as corrupting influences. This is of course hogwash, as vaccines have saved countless lives. Ironically, he came to loathe the vegetarian diets due to their, quote, damaging qualities of vegetables and cereals, end quote. This is of course very wrong and rooted in no factual basis, as vegetables and balanced diets lead to longer lifespans in general. By the 1930s, he would move to Florida and establish a health clinic which heavily promoted fasting and a nearly all-fruit diet. He especially promoted oranges. His diet for decades, he claimed, was primarily oranges or orange juice, in addition to what he considered clean air and sunlight, which promoted cellular regeneration, he claimed. Almost like a plant. While proclaiming himself a doctor of, quote, life science, the legitimacy of his credentials are highly suspect and possibly fabricated. The doctor title was likely self-bestowed or given at a fraudulent paper mill. By the mid-1950s, George, after a brief period writing under the name of Kenyon Clementi, would begin writing under his most famous and prolific pen name, Hilton Hotema. Additionally, he began being published by the company Health Research, situated in Mokelumne Hill, California. Dozens of his books would be published under them. In addition, he frequently wrote essays or pieces in conjunction with other pseudoscientific mystic writers. His wife Jerusha also edited his works. Health Research boasted, quote, We believe that Dr. George R. Clements has given out more actual knowledge than any other one man in this century. The information that he gives in his books is not taught in public schools, given in public mediums, and is seldom found in other publications, end quote. This was not the brag they were thinking it was. His outlandish claims included a belief that ancient man was essentially immortal, and essential creator sun god maintained the longevity of men with cosmic energy. When these ancient men ate, they merely subsisted on fruits. The introduction of other food or chemical products to the human body, he claimed, massively curtailed the human lifespan. Modern civilization and industrialization, he claimed, only harmed men. He also made spurious historical claims that the Egyptians and ancient Indian Hindu societies knew the key to living a nigh immortal life. Additionally, he fully believed in Atlantis' existence, viewing it as once holding lost esoteric lore. Modern religion, George claims, stifled supposed lost, repressed knowledge of early nigh-immortal men, who he dubbed the, quote, masters. In his elderly years, George remained an elusive figure for many. He kept a low profile while living in Florida. Later work prefaces include some of the previously mentioned biographical details. 1962 would see the release of what is considered one of his more notable works, Man's Higher Consciousness. This remains a somewhat commonly cited work in the Breatharian movement. George would die in 1970 at the age of 92 in Florida. Though quite a long age to live, he often claimed he would live decades more. Clements' books are now widely seen as emerging with renewed prominence with what is now commonly termed New Age religious beliefs. Many of his works were regularly reprinted or compiled, occasionally under new titles. While not the originator of many of these odd beliefs, he was among its most prominent proponents of the 20th century. Publishers that emerged after health research for decades, even to the present, will reprint Hotema's work wholesale, ensuring their longevity and notoriety. Breatharian and Fruitarian blogs make reference to a number of Hotema's works when they bother citing any. Clements has been listed as a key figure in the history of modern alternative medicine by reputable scholars. To be clear, George's work is considered scientifically fringe and harmful. He was a crackpot writer who still finds proponents today. His legacy has been damaging in the pseudo-scientific beliefs he peddled. He ignored the marvels and life-saving developments of modernity to pursue a mythic immortality which never existed.